This video is a guide how you can stop overthinking and even stop intrusive thoughts. So the goal of this video is that you're capable to look at your thoughts instead of through your thoughts. And I want you to not believe everything that you're thinking. So first of all, we will talk about psychological groundwork, very important, we need that. And then based on that, we're going to talk about some action steps. And there will be a lot of different action steps because some people just deal with some light rumination and overthinking. Other people have really hard times where they have massive intrusive thoughts, they cannot even function properly anymore. And maybe you even have both. And I want to give you different action steps and you can just pick whatever fits you. Now, first of all, you probably watched the video because you are overthinking, you're having intrusive thoughts, you're ruminating a lot, and you even tried to stop doing that. And that made you very frustrated. And probably you simply tried to suppress and inhibit those thoughts. You were annoyed by them, you said, stop, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to think about this anymore, I want to think about something else, but then they still popped up, and you simply tried to push them in the background, in the back of your mind. But that didn't work. And studies have shown that inhibition and suppression of thoughts doesn't work. So either you have the same amount of thoughts, and some studies even suggest that you even have more thoughts. Suppressing it makes it even worse. And on top of that, it's not only that the thoughts get less and fewer, it's also that you're actually suffering more. Suppression makes you suffer more emotionally. Studies have shown that, that's very clear. And that's why you're even more and more frustrated. And overthinking and ruminating is also closely connected to anxiety, obviously. Those thoughts are often about the future, and anxiety is often about the future. What happens if probably this happened, and then in the future this and this will happen. And anxiety is also connected to depression. Exactly because of what I just told you, that you're suppressing, you're trying to deal with the anxiety, but it doesn't work. Maybe it's even getting worse. And that makes you so frustrated, and it even makes you a bit helpless. You learn that you're helpless. That's a psychological term, learned helplessness. And this term is closely connected to depression because you tried so much, you tried to deal with it, but it doesn't work, and that makes you feel down, and that's maybe even makes you feel a bit depressed. So anxiety and depression is quite closely connected. But anxiety and depression are also two emotional states that you can deal with quite well. Studies have shown that, research has shown that it's one of the conditions that are most treatable in psychology. Quick exercise. I just want to, I talked about studies that inhibition and suppression doesn't work. Quick 10-second exercise that shows you that it's not going to work. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself sitting on the beach. You will look at the ocean, and now don't imagine how a pink elephant is walking over the beach and goes into the water. Don't imagine the pink elephant. All right, you can open your eyes again. Doesn't work, right? Still saw the pink elephant, and this is exactly, your mind doesn't understand the word not, like don't imagine, not to this, don't think about this thought. It will just actually become worse and you cannot inhibit it. Okay. So, an example. I was working with somebody from California. He had a startup and he actually sold that startup. And he got 25% of the money first. And now for 3 years, he has to work in that company though that bought his startup. And every year he gets another 25% of the money that he sold the business for. And he needs to work there simply so the clients stay. And he also transfers more of the knowledge that he has. And he came to me because he said, Marco, since I'm working there, I'm very anxious and I'm having a lot of ruminating thoughts. I'm overthinking, even have those intrusive thoughts that I think they don't like me. My boss doesn't like me. I'm not the priority. They don't care about me. They're annoyed by me. I'm a burden. And that makes me actually not do anything. I'm not pitching new great ideas. I'm not asking questions. I'm not showing myself. So those thoughts really, first of all, take a lot of happiness in my life. And also, I'm not performing as great as I could. And actually, I have still a lot of stocks in this company and ownership. And, it's not helping the business that I'm still having ownership from. Yeah. And then we started working together. And I want to now share a couple of strategies that could work. So first of all, I noticed this client when he talked about things, for example, my boss, I'm not the priority for him. He doesn't have time for me. All those things he said as they are reality. And so might you too. Your thoughts that you're having, this is probably happening, this occurs in your head. It feels like this is reality. This is how it is. And whenever he started talking about that, I interrupted him and I said, wait, you have the thought that your boss has no time for you, you are zero priority, they are annoyed by you. But I always basically helped him to add this phrase in front of his sentences, I have the thought that. And you can do that too. Whenever you're catastrophizing again, whenever you're overthinking again and ruminating about negative things and have those negative intrusive thoughts, you can at least add the phrase, okay, I have the thought that my boyfriend will break up with me. I have the thought that my business will fail during the next months. I have the thought that my clients don't like me anymore. This puts a little bit of detachment. And this is what I meant in the beginning. You look at the thoughts, not through the thoughts. Don't believe everything you think. Put a little bit of distance between your thoughts, your monkey mind, and yourself. So I have the thought that this will happen. And this by itself already calms you a bit more down, and you notice, it's my mind that is playing tricks on me again. And I'm just noticing I have thought that. It's the first little thing. What you could also do is this monkey mind that you're having, that sometimes also occurs more and more and sometimes maybe a bit less, you could give this monkey mind a name. It could be a random name. It could be Jessica. And whenever you notice, I'm starting to have those intrusive thoughts again, you could say, Jessica's here again. Hey, Jessica. You can be here, that's fine, but I'm sitting in the steering wheel. I decide what to do. I decide how to behave, who to approach, and what to say. But you can be here. And maybe you even have something valuable to say. I mean, you're over-exaggerating all the time, but maybe the very core is something truthful. You can stay with me here. But it makes it all a little lighthearted because you're too heavy, it's too intense in your brain. You're too annoyed. You need to lift yourself a bit up and detach yourself a bit by saying, hey, I have the thought that, and Jessica's here again, or whatever name you choose. Make it a little more lighthearted and notice it's not me. It's Jessica, or Tom, or Dave, or however you want to call this overthinking guy. Those are all still like easy, low-hanging fruits that you can use to simply be more aware and not give those thoughts so much importance. Generally, I think awareness is highly underestimated because those intrusive thoughts and overthinking, it's like a kitchen fire. If the fire is very big, as a big flame, it's hard to extinguish the fire. But if it's just a low, small fire, you can easily extinguish it. And it's the same with those thoughts. If you start ruminating and already thinking for 15 minutes, it's getting bigger and bigger, and then inhibiting yourself becomes very difficult. Because actually here you have your prefrontal cortex behind your forehead. This is where you rationally think. And then you have your emotional system, the limbic system within the brain. And if you're getting very stressed and overwhelmed and getting caught up in this overthinking, your blood even flows more into your limbic system, your emotional system. And you have even fewer blood in your prefrontal cortex, which is here to inhibit all those negative thoughts, to say, no, this is not actually the right idea. Actually, I'm playing tricks on myself. It could be also different. You don't even have so much power anymore. So it's important that you notice this as early as possible when you still have some blood here, and then inhibit yourself. It's very important. I also had another client, because he also didn't notice it early on, and I asked him, when you're in this rumination phase again, how do you notice that physically? Like, is something else physically? Some people like it feels heavy. My stomach feels weird. Like in Germany we say, I have such a throat when people are angry, or I feel something in my throat, I'm anxious. And he said, I feel it in my head. My head gets very hot. For you it might be something different physically. And this helped him to be more aware when he's starting to ruminating again. Because he noticed, oh, my head is getting hot again. Oh, true, I'm again in this phase. Let's go for a walk. Let's meet a friend. Let's call a friend. Let's do something different. And then he applied a couple of strategies that helped him to not fall into this massive rumination phase. Become aware of it early onwards. Maybe that means to think about, how do I feel that physically? Maybe my chest feels tight. Maybe my head feels like there's pressure. Maybe my fingers are moving faster, whatever it is. And then notice and try to become more aware of your physical sensations. And then early on become aware of what is going on. And then use a couple of strategies. Generally, cognitive behavioral therapy is very helpful. I give you a little sneak peek right here. 4 steps I want to share about cognitive behavioral therapy. In the first step, you simply want to be aware of the thought. For example, this client from California, I think I'm not, my boss doesn't have any priority for me. I'm irrelevant. This is a thought that he constantly had. First step, awareness of the belief and the thought. In the second step, we then defined what is wrong here. Because your overthinking and your intrusive thoughts, probably massively wrong. Probably 70% is just maybe wrong or just fully exaggerated. And then the second step, I want you also to think about, okay, what is my thinking error here? I'll give you a little hint. Here are 9 thinking errors psychologists came up with, and probably you're applying one of them when you're again having this intrusive thoughts. For example, the first one, all or nothing thinking. Oh, my boss has fully no time for me. Or what I noticed, for example, with this example here, this client, he used a lot of the thinking error number 5, mind reading. He always thinks he knows what others think. I am not the priority. My boss thinks I'm not the priority. How does he know that? He doesn't know. He just is reading his mind and thinking it's reality. And then, for example, number 7, unhelpful rule. This is also often something that I see in clients, that they just come up with something. Oh, I cannot ask for help. Or life is like that. Or whenever this happens, I cannot treat myself with that. I cannot relax today because of some random reason, but it doesn't make sense. And I actually want you to pause the video and read through those 9 thinking errors and think about, what are you doing quite often? And with my client, let's just call him John. John then also noticed, he himself actually noticed that when I showed him this list, like, yes, I'm mind reading a lot. I don't know. True. This insight already helped him a lot whenever he's overthinking again, like, oh, I'm mind reading again. True, I don't know. I just think that he thinks that, but I don't know. Just calling it out. If you name it, you tame it. If you name it, oh, it's mind reading again, you tame it. It helped him quite a lot. And then on top of that, in the third step, we even thought about evidence against it, because now it's becoming funny, because you really probably have quite some evidence that is not that way. John immediately said, yeah, right, last week I actually went for a walk with the CEO for an entire hour, and we talked about an important topic of the company, and he wanted to hear my opinion. He actually had quite some time for me. He was not rushed at all. He closely listened to me. Wow, why am I thinking that I'm not a high priority? This is stupid. And we came up even with some more evidence. And the fourth point here, in this small blueprint of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is to then come up with an alternative thought or an alternative perspective. And this must be something you believe. So if you're very down and if you're very sad today and you just say, oh, I'm just happy, you don't believe that. It's not true. And then you feel like a fake. And if then maybe people like you, you think like they just like me because I'm a fake, I'm not real, I'm not authentic, you feel even worse. So it needs to be something helpful. For example, when you're down, you can think, well, everybody has their ups and downs, and these days it's mine. It's truthful, I can believe it, but it also, feels a bit better, to be honest. It feels more accepting, and actually it makes me already feel better. That would be an alternative perspective. For John, when he thinks, oh, I'm zero priority here with my boss, I can simply think, well, I don't know. Let's ask him because it's usually in specific situations when I think, oh, he doesn't have time for that. It's like, well, I don't know, let's ask him. And then I just call him or write him an email and say, hey, this is how it works. And even share, I don't know whether this is important right now. I just want to let you know, if it's important to you, we can hop on a call. That's it. And that actually stopped John's overthinking, because he wrote down the email, he gave the responsibility to the CEO to decide whether that's important or not, instead of him deciding whether his CEO thinks it's important or not, instead constantly doing this mind reading thing. So think about the thought, think about the thinking error, come up with some evidence against, and come up with an alternative perspective. That's CBT in a nutshell. I mean, there are a lot of other aspects to it, but I just want to share this blueprint with you. But let's talk about some other things that might be helpful. Another strategy that I like is, whenever you're ruminating again and maybe also have this negative self-talk, like, oh, you're a loser, you cannot do that, notice what kind of voice you're using. Very negative, like, oh, you cannot do that. And I want you to actually change up this voice and play a little bit around. Maybe use like a sexy voice. Huh, you cannot do that. Or something like childish, like, oh, you cannot do that. And just change and play a little bit around and give this voice, where you probably already gave this guy a name, such as David. David is here again and ruminating again a lot. Or call it Alexa and give her the sexy voice, and then just use it, like when you're aware of this thought again, like, oh, I cannot do that, just change it up. I cannot do that. I cannot do that. And it again makes it a bit more lighthearted, changes your perspective, and you notice, well, actually, I can do that. And I go out now and meet some friends. Or I'm gonna ask, or I'm gonna tell a friend of mine that it really hurts my feelings that the last 3 times he wanted to meet and he always has been a no-show and didn't show up. And I don't want that anymore. Yeah. Okay. Also, the topic acceptance is maybe something you heard a lot, and it's a very like big, fluffy word, and I want to make this a bit more concrete. And when I mean acceptance, yes, you can partly start to accept those ruminating thoughts and those negative thoughts that you're having, but I understand that it's quite difficult because it's very annoying and painful. Maybe you can at least a little bit accept that overthinking and intrusive thought phase that you're sometimes having, because you know it will be temporary. You know at some point it will be a bit better again. Yes, maybe it's coming like once a day or once a week, but you know, I'm only like thinking and ruminating now about this like for 1 or 2 or 3 hours out of my experience, and then it somehow will be fine again. Maybe I can accept this because I know it's temporary. I know it will pass. Maybe that helps a little bit. So not accepting because you like those thoughts or you're fine with those, but accepting it because you know they will pass and they will be temporary. And also when you're thinking about acceptance, I know you have this counterintuitive idea of like, well, why should I accept? I don't want that. I even watched this video now for 30 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't know how long I'm talking already. And I don't want that anymore. Why should I accept it then? Doesn't make sense. Well, as I said in the very beginning, studies have shown suppressing and pushing the thoughts away is not going to help it. It's going to make it even worse. You're going to feel worse. And counterintuitively, acceptance and not trying to fight it is actually making it better. And I'm not saying you accept it so then you can change it. That's not real acceptance. I really mean like it's okay. Like that's how it is today. Today I'm a little bit neurotic. It's fine. Those are my thoughts, by the way. I actually said it wrong. It's not like I am neurotic. I have thoughts. You know, you need to remember that. Like I have the thoughts. I have a couple of neurotic thoughts today. It's not like me, not I am neurotic. Like I have a couple of neurotic thoughts today, a couple of overthinking thoughts, intrusive thoughts. And that's okay. You know, that's life. Everybody has their ups and downs. Today is maybe mine. And lastly, it's a strategy that helps when you're very much into those intrusive thoughts and it's very overwhelming and you cannot even properly have a conversation with anybody else. It's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. The method goes the following. You sit or stand somewhere and you just look around and you think, what are 5 things that I see? The light, the camera, microphone, the plant, the window. Okay. What are 5 things that I hear? I hear the children outside. I hear the noise of the light. I hear how I just put my hand on my leg. I hear my voice. Okay, you just do this with 5 things. So what are 5 things I see, 5 things I hear, and then 5 things I feel. I feel my butt, how I'm sitting on the chair. I feel my t-shirt. You know, I feel my tongue. I feel my glasses on my head. So you do this with 5 things as well. And then you do the same thing just with 4 things. 4 things I see, 4 things I hear, 4 things I feel. And then 3, and then 2, and then 1. You can repeat yourself, like when in the round of 5, you can say I see the light, and in the round of 4, you can still say, well, I still see the light. But basically, you're more in the here and now. You're more with your sensations, right? What you see, what you hear, what you feel, and all those sensations are in the present moment. And your anxious thoughts are not about the present moment. They're about the future, or they're about something else, some other location, some if-then very parallel universe, but it's not about the here and now. And as Buddhists say, the happiness is not found in the future, in the past, somewhere else, it's only here in the very present moment. And this exercise pulls you a bit back to the very present moment, to calm you a little bit down when you're very much panicking. Okay. Yeah, those are the exercises. Decide which action step you want to take, and just pick one. Just pick one and be like, okay, I want to use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method this week. I want to remember that I add before the sentence I have the thought that. Or I want to come up with a name and just call this guy or this girl a certain name whenever it's here again and it's overthinking again, so I can detach myself better. Or I want to use a bit CBT and try this myself with those 4 steps. Come up just with one thing and practice it, and be patient. You know, you have those thoughts probably for a couple of years already. So your brain is already wired a certain way. Your brain always changes and builds like new synapses and neurons. And this changes now as well. If you're steering your direction a different way, or if you have new perspectives and can detach a bit from those thoughts, you know, those are thinking patterns you're having. And you need to build new pathways and networks in your brain. That's actually what's happening. It's just like in the gym, you know, you lift the weight, you get bigger, you have bigger muscles. This is what's happening with the brain as well. Your amygdala, which is about the fight or flight response, has a lot to do with the fear. And if you're already overthinking and have those intrusive thoughts for years, your amygdala is probably quite dense, maybe even a bit bigger than others. It's working quite well because you use it a lot. You know, the brain works according to use it or lose it. That's the principle. You use your fear a lot. And now it's time to use a couple of other perspectives. Detach yourself a bit. But it also means it takes a little bit of time, you know, rewiring your brain. It's just like exercising. If you're overweight and you go to the gym for a week, you're not going to look different. But if you do this over a couple of months and years, you're going to be and feel different. And that's now the exercise. So be patient with yourself. Backlashes are normal, and it's a bit of work. And by saying this, I'm trying to sprinkle a little bit more of acceptance also in there, and kindness towards yourself. Because you're probably not very kind to yourself. You're putting yourself down a lot. And this is, by the way, this putting yourself down a lot and how you talk to yourself and what's your relationship with yourself has, by the way, a lot to do with how you think and deal with life. So maybe that's even another approach. By the way, with this client, John, and by the way, this is a real client, but a different name. We actually also then took a closer look about his relationship to himself, and we worked out actually quite some emotional topics. There's like feeling a burden. This was a big thing since back in his childhood. This is where we actually spent half of the coaching program and resolved that. And then over a couple of weeks, he said, wow, I'm not sure how you did it or what happened. It's not very logical, but somehow I feel better. I don't have those thoughts so much anymore. So also, yeah, just as a hint, how you talk to yourself, your relationship to yourself is also very important. So be kind, be patient. If you're curious about coaching and working together with me and dealing with that, there's a link below the video. You can just sign up for a first free call. You can just understand how working together looks like, whether moving forward together makes sense, even building a custom strategy together, because those here are just some big picture thoughts, some ideas, general ideas that work. But in those this one-on-one call, this first call, we also get a little more individualized. What would help for you? What would help you? Yeah. Otherwise, share this video with anybody you feel like it helps. You will never know who actually profits from that. It also helps the video to go more viral. The YouTube algorithm works that way. If you share it more, if you comment it, if you give a thumb up, the algorithm pushes it more. So if you feel like you can go for that. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.